Hello, Weirdlings. Welcome to Weird Awakenings. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, tonight we have got with us Mr. Stephen Hill and our friends from Where in the Folk, Tully and Cecil. And we also have a special guest tonight. He is the Prince of Paleo fiction, Mr. Max Hawthorne. He's the best-selling author of the Kronos Rising series. He is also a my mind just went totally blank there. Give me 1 second.
Hell of a nice guy. Let's go.
He is a great guy. Yes, he is. But yeah, like I said, he does a lot of research, and he is also an independent paleontologist. And earlier, I was actually reading a new article that dropped on Science News today about the megalodon. So thank you so much for joining us, Max.
My pleasure. Happy to be here. You guys are great.
We are talking marine cryptids tonight, so we figured we'd get an expert on here with us. So what got you started?
Well, I dated a marine cryptid in college.
What kind?
Yeah, that's all it takes to qualify.
Oh man!
She was a little slimy, but no, I'm just kidding. Obviously. But I'm sorry. Can you restate the question? I feel like Amber Heard all of a sudden. You know?
Oh wow, that's not saying much about yourself. That's horrible. Yes. What made you? Where did your interest for marine cryptids come in?
Well, complicated, but okay. So I've always had a thing for fishing ever since I was like 5 years old, and the first time my dad took me out fishing and stuff, and that became more of a passion as I got older. I mean, I was doing all over the world, and I was in a whole bunch of magazines and all this stuff. And as I became a novelist, well, at the same time, I also grew up with the Aurora prehistoric scenes models and all this other dinosaur-related stuff. I worked in a museum when I was in college, so a lot of paleontology. And when I became an author, my subject matter was about an extinct, quote, marine reptile being alive in the present, getting loose into the waters of the Atlantic and wreaking havoc, et cetera. The whole Kronos Rising series is based around that. So that kind of, with that, a lot of research came along. And as you start doing more and more research and you meet more and more people, I mean, I've met some amazing people, and you guys. So I got to talk to people who had seen some astonishing things. I mean, people that were like forgotten, like the people don't even know they're alive. And they've seen, like, one guy who saw a 38-foot turtle. Another person who saw what was that creature called? The South. Oh my God, I don't have my stuff in front of me, but a sea monster off the coast of California. So, when you put all this stuff together, it just sort of like compiles, I guess you'd say. You end up having all this vast quantity of knowledge. I ended up putting a book out on it and all. But the cryptids that I've seen myself, which is like 3 different incidents, were not actually in the water. Well, actually, that's not true. One of them was in the water, but it was a terrestrial creature. It was it's going to sound crazy, but it appeared to be a juvenile Sasquatch swimming in a lake in Connecticut. So I don't think that qualifies as a marine cryptid, but it was definitely a cryptid, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
Sorry, it was a long-winded answer.
No, that's great. And I'll be honest with you, I've got a 10-year-old granddaughter that would absolutely love you. She's not into reading a lot right now, but I'm trying to push her into it. But she is a huge dinosaur fanatic. I mean, she's just anything to do with it, from lizards that are alive today to what was around millions of years ago. And she even questions what might still be around. So, like I said, I will definitely be pushing her in your direction, as she gets more interested in reading. She's going to read, damn it. So, right now she's more interested in
how old is she?
She's 10. And she does read, but I mean, she's that kid that doesn't want to be on the computer. She wants to be in the yard catching frogs, catching lizards, or
as we all
else.
Be,
yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely great having, kids now, if they're not into computers, that's what most of them are after. But no, she wants to be out in nature catching stuff. So
Well, I would like the Cronus Rising series. There are a couple of books that would be okay, like
Mhm.
maybe the Cronus Rising Diablo, the prologue.
Yes.
But the novels, the full-length novels, there is some adult language
Mhm.
in there, which so I would steer clear of that for a 10-year-old. And in the Kraken series, the Cronus Rising Kraken series, there is some very adult language, and in the first book there is also an adult scene or two. So I steer clear of that until she's a teenager,
Oh
like
yeah.
upper teens, young adult at least, or something like that. I would never push a child on reading stuff where, I'm assuming we're not allowed to use language on here, correct?
We try very
We try
hard.
not to.
We don't
Sometimes it's
always succeed.
unavoidable.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes
hey,
you have to put
Hadley.
punctuation mark.
I try to get some colorful expletives from like people I know that are, the younger generation and stuff, so that I can implement those in the books. And you'd be surprised the stuff that's out there. Like, now, what is that? And I'm like, ooh, that's,
I've got a few I can think of.
Exactly.
that should have been in the glossary explaining each of these expletives. I wish I could say one right now, but I don't want to offend anybody. So whoever's listening, if you want to know, just buy the Cronus Rising Kraken books, read it yourself. It'll be great.
That's it. There you go. I did read your Diablo, and I've got the rest of them downloaded to follow up. It's not something I've read before, so it was very interesting. I enjoyed it. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it. But, that's, for me, the what I would consider marine cryptids, I'm more into the sirens and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, the more I read about the rest of it, it's really interesting what's still out there. People just don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm sorry.
10% of the seas actually been explored to the extent where is it 5? Okay. I knew
That's only the sea floor.
Yes.
Clear. Not the 11,000 feet of vertical water above it. So, as you might imagine, and certainly not the abyssal regions where there are probably squids big enough and that do eat whales and so forth and so on. So,
Have y'all seen that movie Underwater?
I don't think so.
Is that the one with what's her name?
Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so there's like a Leviathan-sized creature in that movie, and that's what I like to think is out there somewhere.
Right.
I had a whole chapter in Monsters and Marine Mysteries talking about mega squid and all the reports and evidence that supports it. And I'm convinced that they exist 100%. They had, what was it, 1980? I can never remember everything. I'm sorry, but I'm not a computer server. But there was a destroyer named the USS Stein that was actually attacked by a mega squid shortly after it left San Diego. It was cruising along, and then some reports say there was a sudden shudder, and then its sonar went completely operational, and they had to go back to dock because destroyers of warship cannot be out there blind. You need to see the depth, you need to see threats, you need to see other vessels, etc. The sonar dome is and all the pictures in the book, it's literally a dome-shaped front, where the prow of the vessel goes like this, it goes underwater, then there's a bulge at the front, and that's where the sonar dome is housed. And this is about, I think it was 26 feet across, which is sizable. And you have, they had a no-foul rubber coating on it, and that coating was 80% or 90% of it was all shredded up. So whatever did that was able to destroy 26 feet wide a dome in seconds, shredded, and they have found at least claws in the rips, and they were the claws of a squid that was estimated to be 5 times bigger than any squid ever seen. So think about that, 5 times bigger, and they already had 50 or 60 foot squid at that point.
Yeah.
So, scary stuff. I believe that the squid was so big that it was, obviously thought it was the alpha predator, but when it was smaller, it had to worry about being eaten by whales, sperm whales. And when this destroyer passed over it and it got hit with active sonar, which is in the same frequency sperm whales use, by the way, when they're targeting, echolocating for prey. And the squid must have thought that dome shape, which looks just like the head of an enormous whale, and it lashed out at it. And then after it made contact, it realized it wasn't an organic creature, broke off, whatever. But it was able to damage a warship, a modern warship.
You know, I've mentioned this on other shows that we've had, but I always connect a lot of that back to like how our military's been bombing the ocean randomly.
That's what I was going to ask.
I
Have you
get
been seeing any of that where they randomly been like setting nukes off like in the ocean, and where the ocean caught fire, but they were putting out with water?
That was strange.
yeah.
That one was strange.
To me, it's almost like they're trying to keep things. They may be trying to keep things back a little bit, like far enough back from civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm a little late to the party, guys. Hi.
Hey.
I'll tone after y'all started. But that makes me think of all the unidentified objects that come in and out of the oceans that we're seeing.
Like the UFOs?
USOs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of them go very quickly into the water and submerge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that plays into, like, a lot of people think the reason they're dropping in certain points like that is because they're going into like a hollow earth, maybe, or at least some place in the depths that they've kind of set up base, I guess.
Well, the ocean's large enough to where like they really wouldn't even have to go to Hollow Earth to just settle at the bottom in a few places.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people connect Hollow Earth with the seeing them bounce back into the ocean and stuff.
Yeah, have you run across reports of that? Part of that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but part of that, they've seen those submerge off the coast of Florida. So I was just wondering, Max, have you connected any dots with anything like that?
Well, USOs is not something that, I mean, I usually focus on organisms, but I did watch that documentary. What was it called? Countdown to Disclosure, I think it was called. And the person in there, who's apparently been targeted for assassination by the government, according to him, many times, and his people have been killed off. He claims that the military has been working with UFO technology for generations, and that they currently have, like, a lot of those vessels that are seen as aerial craft that are kind of tic tacs and things like that, are actually belong to us, and that these things are able to travel through the water, for example, at 500 miles an hour, because they project a field in front of themselves to avoid friction, like the Soviet torpedoes. I forget the name of them, but I actually use them in my books and stuff. And that allows them to travel through water at tremendous speeds. And I think they said it was like 20,000 miles an hour in the atmosphere or something like that. So apparently, if that's true, and he showed some footage on it, was pretty convincing of some technology that they had on it. You guys definitely got to check it out. Countdown to Disclosure. I bought it just because it was so fascinating.
Okay.
So similar to kind of what Bob Lazar always says.
Yes. Yeah. You'd have to get Bob Lazar to explain what's taking. He explained that on about what was taking place with the Tic Tac video.
I don't know who commented that a minute ago, but a lot of people think that Bob Lazar is capping.
Yeah. I'd be one of them.
I don't know, but yeah, it was pretty cool. I think he said, like, some of the UFOs being filmed and stuff are real, and some of them are ours. So he was like, it's a combination. Apparently, we're using their tech, and they're watching us. That kind of thing.
Well, we had a guest on Wearing the Folk. He goes by the alien scientist. His name's Jeremy Riss, and he is a physicist, and he is really big in the UFO UAP community. I think he has like 130,000 subscribers on YouTube or something, and he goes off about Jeremy Corbell and Bob Lazar. Like, he despises those guys. And I'm telling you, like, he goes on like 4 and 5 hour rants where he just debunks everything one at a time that they're talking about. But
didn't he bring up the thought that some people believe that UFOs may also be living organisms too?
Yeah, he mentioned that, but he also,
wouldn't that be the ultimate cryptid, like something that people didn't even think was a cryptid, but it turned out to be one? Like
Robbie the robot.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Wasn't there a movie? Wasn't The Abyss, I think, maybe, that they ended up being
Oh.
living
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
creatures? Yeah.
that might be where I got that from.
Yeah, no, I thought I remembered that being something
No,
about that.
I think Jeremy believes that that the government does have the technology. He just thinks that Corbell and Lazar are part of it, like just like almost like a false like I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? Just misinformation almost, like to make people look in one direction instead of the actual truth.
Right.
It's Dr. Stephen Greer. That's the guy that
Stephen.
is in this documentary. Yeah, Dr. Stephen Greer. And he is on Wikipedia an American how do you pronounce it? Ufologist?
Ufologist.
Ufologist. And yeah, he founded the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, all this other stuff. And
Right.
yeah, I highly recommend it. If I had it in a DVD, I'd send it to you guys. I think I bought it online or whatever, and have it saved on my computer or something.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. I know with that right there. I talked to Jamie King. He does cryptid paranormal research. I think he's from Pennsylvania. And I asked him about that, and he said that that's actually worked for him. The same stuff that Dr. Greer tells about.
Isn't it like it's connected telepathically somehow?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like they get together in groups, don't they? And kind of like quote unquote summon the UFOs.
Oh yeah, that guy was on the news summoning. Was he the same one that was on the news summoning?
No, but he made a documentary that Max was talking about, and it kind of, if I'm remembering the documentary right, they do some of those group exercises.
Yeah, it's yeah. I know. I've watched it. It's pretty interesting.
I need to watch it.
Yeah.
That's confirming.
I was putting books in my cart right then. I didn't know you had the Chronos Rising. I'm on fire. I'm putting them in my cart right now.
Okay, Max. I cannot pass up this opportunity to have you here. What about the Loch Ness Monster? Is that a Greenland shark or is it something else?
Thanks. I was going there too.
Okay. So, there's been a lot of theories, as you know, for a very, very long time about the Loch Ness Monster, plesiosaur and sturgeon and all sorts of things like that. Tons of hoaxes. Obviously, everybody knows about the surgeon's photo is a classic one, and then the guy putting footprints on the beach and stuff like that. There was a hoax, about 20 years ago, where somebody took what I determined to be the dactyl of a giant Japanese spider crab that looks like a tooth, and stuck it in a deer carcass, and they used that to try and create whatever fervor, etc. There's story, people pushing the giant eel thing and all sorts of other stuff like that. I mean, at the end of the day, though, you got to figure that whatever is the cause of this, like these sightings and stuff, if it's not all now commercialized, you know what I mean? Like the timing and things like that, you see a lot of it. Tourist season comes, etc. But I looked at a lot of the historical sightings. And I'm not the first person to come up with this theory. I don't remember the person who hunted there for many years looking, but he felt that the Nessie sightings were actually Wells catfish, which is a very large freshwater fish that is found all over Europe and Asia, parts of Asia, Russia, etc. They're very hardy. They're enormous ones living in the Chernobyl waters around there, in and around Chernobyl, and they get big, up to 5 meters in length. They're also very snaky looking. See, they're more elongate than most catfish. And they've in Europe, in England, I think the biggest one that's been caught was around 7 feet long, 155 pounds or something like that. But the Europeans stocked them all over the place for sport and for food, things of that nature. If you look at a Wells catfish, the historical reports strongly jibe with it in terms of both appearance and behavior. There is one classical report where the person described it as, you probably read it, like walking across or crawling across the road
Mhm.
and then into the lake. Is an old report. And they said it was 20 feet long, but if you dig deep enough, you find the original report said it was 7 feet long. Is just a leprechaun boat with this?
Wow.
What's a sal? Sail?
Yeah.
Oh, but that original sighting was based on something only about 7 feet long, which is easily the size of Wells catfish, and the color and everything seems to match, humping along, etc. They have these fins and everything else like that. It all jibes. There's somebody saw one lying on the side of the lock and flailing around, and eventually rolled into the water. It was described as being that size and having, quote, antennas. And
This thing,
catfish have giant whiskers, and obviously they would look like antennas. Another guy described one. He had its head up out of the water, and it was the perfect dimensions, like about yay big, of the head, open mouth of a Wells catfish. It goes on and on and on. There's so many sightings, and the Wells's behavior matches. Do you remember when what's that guy's name? Jeremy
Wade.
Yeah, Jeremy Wade. Thank you.
Yeah.
He went there looking and stuff, and there was a report of some, like, girls had been swimming, and then something had grabbed them by the leg and, like, yanked them and stuff, left some bruises, no bite mark though and stuff, and they were terrified and they swam for their lives. And a Wells protecting its nest will behave exactly like that. They lay their eggs in submerged timber, branches, fallen logs, that type of stuff. You go near its nest, it's going to rush out, try and bite you, chase you away, etc. I think he even had that experience where something did that, if I'm not mistaken. And even that one where the guy, where he claims, like, the priest, like the monster came after somebody and he, like, went at it and it turned away or whatever. That sounds like a Wells catfish. And catfish, the Wells come out of the water to go after prey. Like, there are films of them eating pigeons. You guys must have seen that. It stalks to the water's edge, lunges out, grabs a bird, goes back in. So what's to stop a Wells from miscalculating and ending up on the land, flopping around as per sightings, and then rolling back in? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not dismissing all of them, but I feel that between the stocking programs that the Victorians did and everything else, I believe that there are couple big Wells in there, whether they're there all the time or they migrate in and out when there's, the regular fish there are spawning to feed. What? Is spawning a bad word? Oh, I see it.
Alan going off the rails.
I am not touching that, literally. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I think the majority of the sightings are either a sturgeon or a catfish. There was even, oh my God, just like a month ago or something, I had it on my Monsters and Marine Mysteries group on Facebook, and they had this sonar listing, the sonar hit. They showed a screenshot of it on a fish finder. There was supposedly this 30-foot signal, of something. And I took the sonar image and then I measured it out, because there are readings in there for depth and stuff like that. Calculated the reading was actually 20 feet long, not 30. And then if you know anything about sonar, that's not an accurate reading in terms of length anyway, because it measures the fish as it's traveling from point A to point B. See? So it's the height that matters, determines size, but not this way. So the long story short is, whatever was making that sonar reading was maybe at most 10 feet in length. It was definitely a large fish of some kind. Exactly. That's a Wells cat. Yeah. That might actually be the current world record.
That's
massive.
That's bigger than a John boat, son.
I mean, if you see that in the water, that thing's back, etc. It looks, if you see them lengthwise, it could look like the head and neck of a plesiosaur-type creature. See, so but that sonar thing was definitely some big fish. Whether it was a sturgeon or Wells, I have no idea. It could have been a seal theoretically, but it was headed toward some undersea peaks, which were gathered around a lot of fish readings. So it makes sense. I forget who the Loch Ness Monster hunter is, that famous guy with the long white beard.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I don't know these people's names because it's not like my regular thing. But he even said that it's quite possible that Nessie is a very large catfish or sturgeon that migrates into the loch occasionally during the fish spawning season to feed. You know?
Well, I don't
And
know. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've always heard that catfish are kind of like goldfish. The bigger body of water you put them in, they'll just keep growing as long as they stay there. So, I mean, that being the world record that we just seen, that's literally the size of a John boat. At least, what you think? Probably 8 feet.
Well, I don't
they
know
get
about
bigger though.
Morgana, but
I bet you can find one double that in like a really big solid body of water, and the loch is extremely deep. It's just packed full of water. Like there's all kinds around. So that's great.
There's a great clip out there. If you guys get to see it, I wish we had it on here, where somebody was fishing. And that's another thing, by the way, about the wells. They hide during the day under structure, timber, branches, things of that nature. So sonar is not going to show them. If a fish is mixed in with timber under the bottom there, laying there, in a submerged tree, bush, whatever you want to call it, it's not going to show. Which is also
are they deep water fish?
They can swim as deep as they want. They could definitely go in the bottom of the loch. So, I mean, if you think about that, but this guy was like fishing for one because it was at the edge of like I don't know where he was, but across, it wasn't far from him. And it was lurking in the shadows under a tree by the edge of the water. And he cast at it, was a lure. And then all of a sudden it came lunging out. And I swear it was terrifying. This giant.
I know the video you're talking about.
Yeah, it was like boom. And then this thing, it looks like an anaconda striking.
He was using like a topwater bait, and he kept flinging it like a frog or something.
Yep. And this thing just went to blast it.
You see this huge shadow, and then it just explodes out of the water. I've seen that video actually.
Yeah. So if you see that, I mean, from a boat, from shore, whatever, you're gonna be like, "Oh my god, I just saw Nessie,"
Look, I just recently saw a sturgeon for the first time. That is a frightening fish. I mean, because like I said, that would be something that would definitely get me out of the water quick. Like what the hell?
I just sent y'all a link to that rare black alligator gar that they filmed recently. That would scare me, and especially if I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
The Satan gar.
Yeah. Well,
Black devil.
Is it the muskie that has all the teeth and it gets really big?
Yeah. We actually used to live in the county where at least the state record muskie had been caught. It was scary looking.
Well, I've heard of catfish in the reservoir here getting up to like human size. And you used to go and be able to walk across the dam and you could look down and see them, and they're huge.
Hadley, did you send me that picture? I was going to throw it up if that's what you meant.
I sent it in I'll send it to you. Hold on just a
Tully's too good for Facebook.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I fly low for the most part.
Well, they say that there's catfish at the Cumberland Falls where we live at that are big as like Volkswagens. So
yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, they call it the Columbus Lock and Dam, and that's close by in Mississippi. But gangsters used to drive down and throw bodies in the Columbus Lock and Dam because there are catfish the size of Cadillacs in there that would eat them.
That's similar to Lake Lanier too. When we covered it, there was a truck full of chickens that wrecked, and they were going to try to recover part of the truck and couldn't get to it because of how big the catfish were, eating the whole chickens.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Mm.
We had a family friend that broke the state record for catfish back. It's been 20 years ago. It's been broken again since, but that thing was just disgusting. It was just, it got to the point where it really didn't even look like a catfish anymore because it was just so misshapen and everything. Oh, yuck.
And they'll eat anything.
Yep. Yes, they will.
Actually, I spoke to somebody firsthand when I was in college, and I was only interested in fishing then, not cryptids and stuff. But I was working some security job or something on a pier, like a huge pier, like Stone Pier, where ships dock in Philadelphia. And I spoke to this guy, this engineer there, and he told me that they had some issue with the pier at some point, and they sent some divers down and he told me, he was one of the divers, and he told me they refused to go back down because they encountered fish that were significantly bigger than them. And I was like, were they musky? Because I was only the musky. And he's like, no. I said, well, where are they? I don't know. And he goes, we serviced quite rapidly, and we would not go back. So they were afraid.
Was it a grouper?
No, this was the what's that river in Philly? The school, I think.
This is in a river. Okay.
Yeah. But it was definitely a freshwater fish. But I've encountered some monster grouper. Believe me.
Okay.
I've caught them like twice my size and stuff. But but no, this I think he must have been talking about some sort of mutant catfish or something. I have no idea.
Really?
Or maybe there's an Atlantic sturgeon in there. I mean, it does connect to the it's a tidal area, so anything's possible. But anyway, so back to the Nessie question.
Yes.
And all, I think the most likely candidate, honestly, besides hoaxes, and I'm not saying there might not be some. There's a small chance there's some undiscovered creature in there, and I would love it to be true. But I feel, going by evidence, I think that the odds are almost certain that we're dealing with some sort of very, very large fish, and we're dealing, and most likely, either a whales is my feeling with the the descriptions and stuff, but it could, or possibly a sturgeon. And by the way, the DNA thing, there's been DNA tests also done. That stuff deteriorates very quickly. So if a fish comes in there, you know what I'm saying? Like he's in there like for just to hunt and then leaves. I think that in a couple of days, there's no evidence left. It all rots away. There's no DNA proof that the thing was there anymore. They've had seals in the loch documented, but when they've done their test, there was no seal DNA. Hello. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you've got footage of seals in Loch Ness, but there's no seal DNA. Why is that? And that's why. So if that, Loch Ness expert, the old guy with the beard, whatever his name is, I'm sorry to keep calling you that, sir. If you ever see this, which you probably won't. But anyway, I don't know your name. So no disrespect. I got a lot of friends in the UK. Love them. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, he's right, and if these big fish come in, during spawning season to feed, and I don't mean their spawning season, I mean their prey spawning season, then that makes perfect sense. I saw in Philadelphia at a Tinicum Reservoir one time, I don't know what the bait fish were, but they were about yay big, and there were tens of thousands of them, maybe hundreds of thousands, all piled up in like an acre around the shoreline, and these big channel cats. And I say big, I mean, to me, I thought they were big at the time because I was younger, but they might have weighed 8 to 15 pounds. The biggest one might have been like 3 feet long. They were just swimming along with their mouths open and gorging themselves on spawning fish, bait fish, all clumped up. It was like Golden Corral for cats.
Like that.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's similar to how a whale would do
minimum
things.
effort and maximum result. So if you give a big Welsh cat knows instinctively, and with those antennas of his and stuff, he knows that there's going to be 10,000 trout, whatever they are there, okay, in that section, he's going to go there, I mean, these fish are all busy, getting busy, and he's just going to be like, like Pac-Man, So, anyway.
Could you imagine the catfish fry you could get out of that thing if it's really that big? That'd be good.
I've had blue catfish, and it's very good on that channel. I've never eaten a Wells. I'd feel bad, like I'm eating a Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, you would need a whole crew just to fillet it and cook it.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you were diving down there and there really was like a 16-footer or something?
It'd swallow you. It would eat you. That'd be insane. Fish and chips.
Okay, so on as far as marine stuff goes, I have this completely healthy respect and admiration for octopus. I just think that they're probably some of the most intelligent creatures in the world. The things that they've been that they've researched and seen them doing, like sneaking out of their enclosure into another one, eating and going back and things like that. So as smart as they are, I can only imagine what else is down there that's hidden. I mean, it amazes me, some of the things.
Well, it
Octopuses
probably,
are closest thing to aliens that we have, though, aren't they? They're the ones
Yeah.
that they're like the DNA isn't from Earth or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
Came in on a comment.
yeah. And to go back to that, I know I was talking about that movie earlier, but in that movie, at the deepest depths of the ocean, it's in the future, and we have like a mining rig or something set up down there, and there's sentient beings down there that can only live in that kind of pressure,
Right.
and they're headed up by like this, Cthulhu-esque Leviathan-sized sentient creature, and I always think about that whenever you bring up stuff like that, because there could be something hyper intelligent down there that we just haven't ever encountered.
Right. And if
At
they're
first, I
that
thought you were talking about Deep Rising. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
It had like that hideous, I don't know what that thing was. It was like a mollusk from hell. Guy gets pulled up in that armored, underwater suit, and it comes up through the opening and bites him in half, right through the armored suit and everything. And then his like guts are hanging out of the bottom, and his girlfriend's screaming and stuff. And, that was
really.
They were doing some underwater mining there too. Lesson learned: underwater mining bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, what was cool about that movie is kind of the aesthetic of the monster itself. It almost looked like the scene from Lord of the Rings where you see the Eye of Sauron, and it's just like that really dark, kind of dimly lit aesthetic, and you see like the shadow of this gigantic thing.
And this isn't
like
the Abyss? The movie
No.
The Abyss? Like Cameron's
Nope.
movie? No.
No, it's worth checking out though.
What's the name of it?
I'm pretty sure it's called Underwater. I'll look it up.
Oh, is this the one with the Kristen Stewart? Or
Yep. Yep.
Oh.
Underwater.
I think so.
It's called Underwater?
That's what. Yeah, I guess that is. Was it made in 2020?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a simple title. What are you filming? Underwater? No, not where. Underwater. Oh, who's on first? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, Max, I have seen you multiple times. Fossils and such, huge teeth and things like that. So I'm going to assume, and if wrongly, please correct me, that you've got like tons of this kind of stuff around.
I do. I as a fossil myself, I like to. I have an affinity for things like me.
Right, there you go. That's why you keep those kind of things. Yes, I mean there have been some really interesting ones. Guys, definitely go check him out. He's got a Facebook page. He's got his own personal website. It's awesome. But like I said, that I know several times you've even put on like guess what this is type thing, and you get your audience involved and everything. And I think that's very interesting.
Oh, right now on my Facebook group, we're doing there's a promo running where we're people, and anybody who buys a book gets to enter this raffle, and it's for a mosasaur tooth, actually.
Uh-huh.
A Cretaceous era mosasaur tooth. You want to see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Uh-huh.
While he's getting that, have you heard of this? This is apparently new. The shark cano that just erupted.
Sharknado?
No, the volcano with the sharks.
There's a
What are
volcano
you-
It
that has
erupted?
erupted into the ocean.
I missed that too, Tully.
No, I knew about the
species of
shark
shark
that lived in the volcano.
that apparently had 2 species of sharks that are able to tolerate hot and acidic water that's released.
Yeah, I've heard about the sharks. I didn't know that it erupted. What happened to the sharks?
They're going everywhere. They blew them everywhere. I've just seen that right there. I was like, what the?
It's
hell?
always something crazy like that that starts bad things happening.
Have you
it is
heard about that, Matt?
2022.
The shark cano that just erupted?
Is that another movie?
No, this is real. This is on CNN.
Oh. No. Wait a minute. If it's on CNN, that does not make it. Okay.
Well,
Hold on
You
now.
said it was
NASA
real.
had sent some. They
It's
sent
real. It's on
cameras
the
into this volcano like a couple of years back, and they found these sharks that were living in the extreme temperatures.
I remember
Well,
that. Yes.
and it
Well,
just
it
erupted.
erupted.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
Well,
Well, I'm sure
that's
they
what happened
knew
this
it was
week.
coming and got out of Dodge, because fish tend to have a sense for these things, especially sharks. I mean, they've been around.
So now we have these hyper sharks that are able to withstand hot temperatures and acidic water swimming around everywhere.
Freaking lasers on their head. Forget that. Lasers on their head. No sea bass. Okay.
What the
I
hell?
just want to be clear. On CNN. Yes.
Well, I went to fizz.org just to make sure.
So I went and snagged this thing. So I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it here, because it has like this clear film. It's not going to work, I don't think. Let's see.
Yeah.
So it's got what they call a floating frame. See, and this has got a nice big mosasaur tooth in here, species called, or genus called Prognathodon. And so, yeah, since I write about prehistoric marine reptiles in the Cronus Rising novels, this is the current prize that's being raffled off. So a lucky winner is going to get this bad boy. And I like it because it's set up so that they can have it, on your desk, and you can see it from both sides. It's protected. It's a pretty cool setup.
Yeah, that's neat.
That is.
And I made sure to lock the fossil case because the Siberian forest cats that share my house would kill to get into that case. I mean, no, a 20,000-year-old mammoth tooth. Oh, just want to rub themselves all over it.
I can't just imagine cats being curious or anything.
Yeah.
Do you lay any credence to the thought that mammoths still exist in Siberia?
I wish they did. But you know what? The way technology is improving and with the work they're doing, they may be back. So
Yeah.
Bad idea.
I think it's a great idea, actually,
Let's bring
because
back
human beings contributed heavily to their demise. If we have the ability to reverse that, I think it's fair.
Lord.
It's not like they eat people or they're going to form armies and go around and stuff and start trying to take over.
You never know.
Yeah.
On CNN. The mammoth invasion.
Yeah, you have seen the Island of Dr. Moreau, right?
I am in the camp that dragons or some form of dragon probably existed at some point in time. Because there's been pretty much every.
Hold on. Leave my mother-in-law out of this conversation. I'm telling you now, all right? And I hope she's watching.
I just think about like every culture kind of has some version of that.
What was that?
And
what was that sound? Did you hear
Baby. There's a baby.
Oh. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Every generation.
My granddaughter.
I was just saying, like, we probably killed those out too. I just think there's definitely certain predators that I wouldn't want back from the dead.
Oh, I mean, a mammoth's kind of innocuous unless you come up to it and like harass it or try and mess with its young. I don't think that, they're looking for grass to eat.
Well,
That's what they want you to think.
Yeah.
They paint them all innocent in these history books, but little do we know.
Well, and who knows what is under the permafrost? I mean, as it thaws away and everything, anything could pop back to the surface.
Well, and the fact that there are organisms that are still alive under all of that they found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Didn't they have a movie about that?
They had a series called The Vampire Wars, too, that was the same thing. The vampire virus got loose
that
when
movie
they were up north.
Yeah, Jonathan Mayberry wrote a great. It was a series on Amazon.
No, it was on
Netflix.
TV. I watched it.
Okay.
One season, I think.
Yeah, I watched it on Netflix, but I've also read the books and just wow. It's crazy.
That Chris Pratt movie on Prom is kind of the same basis, like permafrost thawing, and it unleashes craziness on the world.
Aliens.
Wait, did you say Chris Pratt?
Pratt, yeah.
Oh, I think you said crisp rat.
Crisp rat.
Yeah. Crisp rat.
Ain't you ever had a crispy rat?
I'm sorry. I saw that on a meme, and whenever somebody says Chris Pratt now, it's in my head.
Okay, so see, I immediately jumped to Sylvester Stallone in Demolition Man having the rat burger underground. Okay, hold on. Let's see what this is. All right. I guess I need to share my screen.
That was a delicacy at our Chinese restaurant in Manchester.
They put it on a stick.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was on a stick. We were talking about
Seriously?
that the other day.
They called it
great.
chicken, but I've ate chicken, pork, beef, and everything. The consistency was a little strange.
Well, it definitely wasn't one of those New York rats, because I was in Greenwich Village one time in the morning back when I was still an animator, and I saw a Norway rat lying dead on the sidewalk. It had what looked like a bullet wound in it. I'm not kidding. It was shot. And if this thing didn't weigh 15 pounds, I'm the king of Norway. Okay, it was literally like almost a meter long.
There's a burger restaurant.
It was. I mean, you had to see it.
There's a burger restaurant where we come from that's close to a lake, a river,
Mm-hmm.
and out back you can see rats that look like dogs. I'm not even joking.
Look, we have what you call that. We
Imagine
have
that on a stick. Like
a little species down here called a nutria rat that is huge, and there are those who think it's a nice menu item that.
It's almost like a caviara, but not as cute.
Yeah,
like a muskrat or something, I think.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe even a beaverish kind of look to it.
Yeah.
But,
well, in our Chinese restaurant's defense, it was the poorest county in America at one point.
I think it still is. I
don't think it is anymore.
I don't believe you. I don't believe they were serving rat. I'm sorry. Were they really?
There was one that was in the town next to ours that got shut down because they drug a deer in through the front door while he was eating.
That's a true story.
Wow.
I ate at a Russian restaurant. Well, no, I take that back. I almost ate at a Russian restaurant. Okay, in Brooklyn one time, some people I went to meet up with, and I got the menu, and I'm like frog's legs, and I'm like, and then it says sheep brains, and I'm like, what? And then I saw ram's testicles. I'm like, that's it, I'm out. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Tell the ram I'm sorry. I apologize. My God, give him back his stuff and whatever. I mean, like, ew.
I've never had testicle before. I'd like to try some of that.
Calf. Have you ever heard of calf fries, Max?
Have heard of what?
Calf fries.
No.
That's where they take the bull and make him a steer, and then they have a big cookout.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna stick with my McNuggets and with the plastic in them. That's fine. And I'm trying to do my part to get rid of plastic by eating it. It's on CNN. You'll see.
I did see a report that said everybody eats like a credit card's worth of plastic every week without knowing it.
Well, by law, chocolate factories can have so many bug parts.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at a bakery once, and that's absolutely true that certain amounts of bug parts and certain amounts of rat fecal matter is allowed to pass through. And it's a national company, so enjoy those cookies that you're eating.
So glad I'm on the carnivore diet back again.
Yeah. I think that there's some things that I would never say I would not eat something, because the zombie apocalypse hasn't happened yet. And who knows?
Well,
until that day, there are a lot of things I'm never going to try.
I know it happens, but I still got a pack in there in the kitchen. I've been eating them, so I don't care. There's a very solid chance somebody shoveled it off the floor.
So did you guys want to talk about like any other marine stuff or this megalodon thing or anything?
Yes,
like
I would love to talk about the megalodon.
Yeah,
I'm happy to like tell jokes all night with everybody.
Okay,
we're gonna run out of time.
We hit the ditch every episode.
This is an every week thing. The question I have is it a Photoshop photo, but it shows a picture of a giant. I don't know. I guess in a shark. They were thinking it was a megalodon beside a U-boat. Is that Photoshop or is
No,
that
that's a
authentic?
known hoax from the Discovery
Is it
Channel's
that?
Megalodon mockumentary. I think it's called
Ah,
Megalodon: The Shark Lives or something like that. And they found old black and white film footage of that exact thing. And apparently, somebody, industrious person, took a frame from that footage, that archival World War II footage, and then they, like you said, photoshopped a fin and a tail and so forth and so on. That's
okay.
so. But
Yeah. See. Yeah.
I mean, like I did a lot of research for that last book on mega sharks, and I am confident in the evidence that we found. I'm 100% sure, first off, that white sharks, although rare, occasionally top 25 feet. I have full color photos and a video of my guy measuring them of fresh shark bites on a humpback whale carcass,
Mhm.
and the larger two bites, which are right next to each other, so it was definitely the same fish feeding. Um, they're both 27 inches wide, which is as wide as this big ass monitor in front of me, and one of them is 31 inches tall, but it's not full gape, meaning the shark didn't go for a full. And then the other one next to it is either 37 or 38 inches high. I don't remember off the top of my head, but gigantic. And I work with multiple elasmobranchologists, formulas that calculate shark size based on bites, bite width, height, all this other stuff like that. And I used the most conservative one. Like some of them were giving me crazy numbers, and I'm like, that can't be right. So I went with the smallest one, and that still equated to like a 26-foot fish, which has to weigh like 8 tons or something like that. I mean, it's enormous, and that was one of the smallest mega sharks that I looked at. I mean, there's one that you probably saw the documentary where they showed a pygmy blue whale with a bite scar on its peduncle that's
Mhm.
supposed to be like a meter across or more.
Yep.
So there's that
Wow.
one, okay, and that one after studying it thoroughly, I came to the conclusion that it had not grown, but the bite was originally more semicircular. And then over time, because it's on the top of the whale's tail region where it's constantly flexing, that it flattened out as the animal grew, see, instead of filling in. So when I adjusted for curve, it still came up with a fish between 26 and 32 feet long, something like that. It's big, very, very
Wow.
big. And then there's that Galapagos one. There's a whale shark. You guys got to check out Monsters Marine Mysteries. I'm telling you, it's all in there. But the guy Simon Pierce, the marine biologist, he studies whale sharks. He's like the best in the world. Swims with them. They do sonograms on these things while they're pregnant. I mean, like imagine swimming with a fish the size of a bus and doing a sonogram. And yeah, and they filmed and photographed a 40-foot female whale shark with a 4-foot bite scar on its rear flank. And I don't think that bite scar is that old. It didn't, I mean, they don't grow symmetrically, okay, and stuff. And it's 4 feet across. So potentially there might be like some white shark that just suffers from gigantism and doesn't stop growing. And it's out there. It could be as big as that whale shark.
See,
I mean,
Cecil sent a video.
I sent a video right then. I don't know how big it is, but it looks like a pretty big shark if it's real.
a lot of the ones that are filmed are basking sharks, though. So, I mean, that's what
That's
happens.
Is that what that is?
That's
yeah.
a basking shark.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You can tell right away. You're very good. Good job, girl. You could tell by the fins, the profile, the caudal, all of it, colors, etc. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times, because they're both mackerel sharks, them and the great white, so they have the same basic body plan, see? But there are certain things in terms of fin shape and dorsal and a lot of other stuff like that, So, but yeah, but I'm telling you, I believe that we have some. I don't think it's a megalodon. I think it's either a white shark that, like a lot. Well, on a documentary, some marine biologists have theorized they think occasionally great whites keep growing. Like it happens with the American toad sometimes, where they get twice the length they normally do, which is 8 times the mass. As a kid, I put this in the book. I once caught, I forget what species of beetle it is, but normally they get only this big. And if you look it up, it says that's how big they get. I literally had one as a kid alive that was 2.5 times that size. It was like that. It was like hitting a lottery. Exact same species, but ridiculously enormous. I mean, like impossible. So it's distinctly possible, likely, and it would explain, because a shark that size would be so slow. Like, how did it hit the whale shark, take a chunk out of its caudal keel, and not finish it off? See, so you got to think about that too. This can't be a very fast-moving fish at that mass.
Mhm.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so
That's cool, though.
That's wild, man. Like, because you're right. Because if people can get, I can't say the word, gigantuism,
Acromegaly.
then why couldn't like fish and stuff? And you would think like cold-blooded things like that would be able to evolve quicker too with something like that.
Right.
I'm going to show you guys something really cool, because I know you're going to be signing off soon. So I did an interview that they did a press release on recently, talking about megalodon and where the largest sharks were found and so forth. Okay, and based on the findings, like my personal collection, the fossils that I own, and number crunching, I disagree with their locations. I believe these are warm water animals. I believe the biggest ones were mothers, and they were breeding. Okay, and there were nurseries and stuff. So this is one of the teeth. Okay, that if you can see this. Okay.
Wow.
This is a megalodon tooth.
Good, nice.
Okay. Now this is the size of a average sized anterior tooth in a shark, meaning the biggest teeth in the jaw, the front, the big impact teeth, I like to call them, where they strike. Those are where the biggest teeth are, dead center right here. Okay. But this is actually one of the smallest teeth in the jaw. This is an LR, lower right 9 or 10, which means lower right would put this tooth, it would be like here on this angle. Okay. And it's one of the tiniest teeth in the jaw. Okay. There's a set of jaws out there that have this same tooth, and the biggest teeth in that jaw are 5.75 inches. This tooth in that jaw is about half the size. Okay, just to show you like how big this mother, and she was a mother, okay, was. Okay, and the cool part is to show you that they definitely had babies in the exact spot where this tooth was lost. This is the exact same tooth. I don't know if you can see it,
Wow.
and that's a baby. Okay, a juvenile. And now I put them side by side. You see, it's even smaller. I had it in front of the other one. Okay, this is the exact same tooth position in the jaw. So. But this shark, I would say this thing could have been 60 feet long.
Jesus.
So,
Goodness.
Yeah, that's
so,
crazy.
it's cool to be able to study all this stuff. And, I don't enjoy reading all those papers out there, all that academic. It gives me a freaking headache. It's like, hey, let's make this as difficult to read as possible. Let's make it as obtuse and obfuscate as possible, so that most people can't read it. So we look great and brilliant, and people think we're all geniuses. I mean, that's almost what it seems like. And you're like reading it, you're like, oh, my head. Like, it's worse than reading a legal document for one of my attorneys. Honestly. I mean, and I wrote a formal scientific paper on plesiosaur flipper locomotion. Okay. And that I would rather write a 500-page novel than write that stuff again. You were like, oh, you're going to do a paper on this stuff? I'm like, nope. Nah, that's all right. I do a blog post, an article, whatever, stuff like that. I mean, seriously, the terms. Oh, my brain. But,
Yeah.
I mean, you can see this is a baby and this is a big mama. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I like that explanation better, Max.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm putting it in its scientific terms. This is a big mother.
There you go.
Look at the size of this mother. Okay, and I'm not using bad language. Because we're talking about a breeding female shark, so she's a mother.
That's
the
right.
Mother of mothers.
Yes, indeed.
See that swimming by, you can be like, look at the size of that mother.
Yes.
I say that quite often.
That's what she said.
That's what she
Or he. Or he. I don't want to be sexist. I get in trouble sometimes for using that line, that old "that's what she said" thing.
That's funny.
Well.
No, but I can't help it, because it's become like all my friends, especially you guys on Facebook and stuff. It's like ongoing. Steve Carell's going to get me killed. I was in Costco. I think I can get away with saying this because there's no bad language on here. Okay. And as an author, I do a lot of hard copy editing. So I'm always printing pages, and I go through a lot of pages and a lot of ink. You know what I mean? And cartridges cost a fortune. So they have this service where you can get your ink cartridges refilled. Okay.
Yes.
So I go through it. I'm like, oh, half the price, this and that, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. I'm all excited. So this is the first time I do it. I go in there, this very stern woman working in the photography department, not the friendliest type, and I'm pretty amiable. If you don't like me, well, hey, I don't know. But so I gave her the things, and it was like 3 cards. She goes, all right, that'll be $40. And I'm like, but they're not filled. And she goes, I know. She goes, it's going to take about 45 minutes. Go shop the store. Pay now. I'm like, but how do you know they're even going to work? And then she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, it says on the website that the cartridges sometimes don't work. So why am I going to pay now if you don't even know how many you're charging me for? You know what I mean? Like it's if somebody's buying tires and one turns out to be flat. You're going to pay for 4 tires. And she goes, well, in that case, we'll have to give you a partial refund. I'm like, that sounds a little complicated. It's like, you pay now. I'm like, whatever. So I give her my credit card. He runs it. The receipt starts coming out. Boom, 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 boom. It's on the floor. It's collecting. You ever see a CVS receipt?
Yeah.
Just 3 times that size. I'm watching it. I'm like scratching my head. I'm like, how much is this costing again? And it finally starts to slow down. And then I go to reach for the receipt. I'm like, figuring it's going to stop any second. So I'm going to wait and then I'm going to pull it. And as I'm reaching, she goes, no, don't take it out yet. And guess what came out of my mouth? And I went, that's what she said. And she went, like that. And I went, I'm so sorry. It just slipped out. And I went, that's what she said. And I went, oh my God, I can't stop. And I went, that's what she said. And now she's purple. Literally, she's like, I thought she was going to have a stroke. And I'm like, I got to go shop. And I just walked away. She was all traumatized. And then I told the guy at the cell phone kiosk, I knew a little bit, and he was hugging me. He was like, dude, I freaking love you, man. He goes, I can't stand her. He goes, you just made my whole week. He goes, it's Monday at 10 a.m. And I made a week, But yeah, I got to be careful because this stuff, you just boom, 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 boom. And it was like nonstop. That's what she said. That's what she said. That's what she said. Everything that was said, was,
It worked, yeah.
Having a major malfunction.
I know. I had a glitch. I kept repeating the same thing over and over again,
Yeah, that's a friend of mine. She married this little guy. He was Korean, so it was a second language for him and everything like that. And he had made some comment one day, and I'm like, excuse me. I told him, there's no excuse for you, and just laughed it off and told him what it meant. Well, we're sitting at a t-ball game a week or so later, and he goes, this lady walks by him, excuse me, and he just looked at her as plain as day. There's no excuse for you. And we're all looking like, dude, you can't say that to strangers.
You can't. And it just happened, By the way, before you go live with this thing, publish thing, you could edit that part out of all that stuff I just said, right?
We're live right now.
What? No, I'm just kidding. My agent is going to have my head. She'd be like, first she's going to do this. And then she's going to make this noise. It goes like this. It goes, and then she's going to be like, Max, we need to talk. She'd be like, my percentage is, I'm just not getting paid enough to deal with this. It's going to be something along those lines. Pretty soon, I'm going to be getting the 15%. She's going to be getting the rest,
Yeah, that's how it goes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys, it's time. And of course, as usual, we got off track. But Max, it was wonderful having you here.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
was.
And you didn't even get to plug my books or tell people where to buy them.
Well, that's where I was going next.
Oh,
Please
you were?
tell everywhere where we can find you.
I don't know. I'm embarrassed to talk about it now. But since you mentioned it, so really, the easiest thing is you go on Amazon and you either look up Max Hawthorne with the E on the end. Don't put the one without the E because there's some impersonator out there, trying to write books and stuff. Or you look up like the Cronus Rising series, Cronus with a K. Great stuff. You can go on my website, which is either maxhawthorne.com or cronusrising.com. There's all sorts of stuff. There's a gallery, there's blog posts, there's free downloads, there's all sorts of stuff. So recommended.
Yes. And if you get time, do definitely go to Science News Today. And there's the article where he's talking about the megalodon sharks and where they were living at and everything too. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, but yes, it's been awesome. And like I said, we definitely appreciate you coming in and talking with us about this stuff.
Always good talking to you, Max.
It is.
I always enjoy
enjoyed
hearing your
it.
stories, Max.
Before you
Yes.
hang up, Max, I want to talk to you after this real quick about something.
All
I
right.
had a bad joke, but I'm gonna stop myself because I said too much already.
Well, wait until we stop the live feed.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, we're going to call it a night. Make sure you give us a like, a follow. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you think we could improve on. And until next time, stay weird.